I think that that's the most common interpretation of Web3. There are other interpretations too, and so I'm just going to refer to that one. Any kind of protocol where there's a group of engineers that have influence over it.
Let me ask you, just for educational purposes, what's the, can you please explain to me what Web3 and the beef between Jack and Mark Andreessen is exactly? Did you see what happened? Sorry to have you analyze Twitter like it's Shakespeare, but can you please explain to me why there was any drama over this topic?
First of all, Web3 is a term that's used to refer to, the part of the economy that's token finance. So if I'm launching an application and my idea is to create a token along with the application and issue the token to the community so as to finance the application and build support for it, I think that that's the most common interpretation of Web3. There are other interpretations too, and so I'm just going to refer to that one. And I think the beef, in a nutshell, not articulated, but I'll articulate it, is whether or not you should focus all your energy creating applications on top of an ethical digital property like Bitcoin, or whether you should attempt to create a competitor to it, which generally would be deemed as a security by the Bitcoin community. So I'm going to put on my Bitcoin hat here.
Yeah.
Right? All the tokens that are if it's driven by a venture capitalist, well, it's a security. If there's a CEO and a CTO, it's a security. If it's all these projects, they're companies. Foundations are companies, right? If you call them a project or a foundation, it doesn't make it not a security. They're all in essence collections of individuals that are issuing equity in the form of a token. And if there's a pre-mine, an IPO, an ICO, a foundation, or any kind of protocol where there's a group of engineers that have influence over it, then to a securities lawyer or to most Bitcoiners, and definitely to anybody that's steeped in securities law, you look at it and say, well, that passes the Howey test. It looks like a security. It should be sold to the public pursuant to, disclosures and regulations. And you're just ducking the IPO process, right? And so now we get back to the ethical issue. Well, the ethical issue is, if you're trading it as a commodity and representing it as a commodity, while truthfully it's a security, then it's a violation of ethics rules, and it's probably illegal.
Well, you keep leaning on this. Let me push back on that part. Yeah. Maybe you can educate me. But you keep leaning on this line of securities law as if it, with all due respect to lawyers, as if that line somehow defines what is and isn't ethical. I think there's a lot of correlation, as you've discussed, but I'd like to leave the line aside. If the law calls something a security, it doesn't mean, in my eyes, that it is unethical. I mean, there could be some technicalities, and lawyers and people play games with this kind of stuff all the time. But I take your bigger point that if there's a CEO, if there's a project lead that's fundamentally, that to you is fundamentally different than the structure of Bitcoin.
It's not that creating securities is unethical. I created a security. I took a company public, right? That's not the unethical part. It's completely ethical to create securities. Block is a security. All companies are securities. The unethical part is to represent it as property when it's a security, and to promote it or trade it as such.
This whole promotion, that's also a technical thing, because you're like what counts as and not as promotion is a legal thing, and you get in trouble for all these things. But that's the game that lawyers play. There's an ethical thing here, which is like, what's right to promote and not. To me, propaganda is unethical, but it's usually not illegal.
If you roll the clock back 20 years, right? All the boiler room pump and dump schemes were all about someone pitching a penny stock,
Sure.
Selling swampland in Florida. And if you roll the clock back forward 20 years and I create my own company and I represent it as the same thing and I don't make the disclosures, right? You're just one step removed from the boiler room scheme. Yeah. And that's what's distasteful about it. There are ways to sell securities to the public, but there are expectations. Maybe we could forget about whether the security laws are ethical or not, right? I will leave that alone. We'll just start with the biblical definition of ethics.
Yes. Don't
lie, cheat, or steal. So if I'm going to sell something to you, I need to fully disclose what I'm selling to you, right? And that's a matter of great debate right now. And so I think that that's part of the debate. But the other part of the debate is whether or not we need more than one token. Like, we need at least one, right? Yes. We need at least one digital property.
One is
because
better than
zero means there is no digital economy.
Yes.
And by the way, the conventional view of maximalists is they think there's only one and everything else isn't. That's not the point I'm going to make. I would say we know there is at least one digital property, and that is Bitcoin. If you can create a truly decentralized, non-custodial, bearer instrument that is not under the control of any organization, that is fairly distributed, then you might create another or multiple, and there may be others out there. But I think that the frustration of a lot of people in the Bitcoin community, and I share this with Jack, is we could create $100 trillion of value in the real world simply by building applications on top of Bitcoin as a foundation. And so continually trying to reinvent the wheel and create competitive things is a massive waste of time, and it's diversion of human creativity. It's like we have an ethical good thing,
yep.
And now we're going to try to create a third or a fourth one. Why?